report from right-wing think tank the New Zealand Initiative is claiming the NCEA system has failed students and that we are slipping against international standards. Joining us now is author of the report, Briar Lipson. Good morning, Briar.
Morning, Hayley.
So, the NCEA stats say that we're seeing a gradual improvement, but you are saying that we've seen 15 years of decline. Who's right?
Well, unfortunately, NCEA was introduced with the best intentions, and it does mean that more students leave school with a qualification. Over time, the graph just goes up and up and up, and it looks wonderful. But sadly, all the independent research suggests that the trend is going in completely the opposite direction. Because, of course, under NCEA, depending on what family you come from, what school you attend, or how self-motivated you are, it's still perfectly possible to achieve a great education through NCEA. But, of course, if one of those things is missing or more, then NCEA also offers a plethora of safer alternatives that will maximise your chances of NCEA success without, through avoiding challenging content, because ultimately an NCEA certificate is not the same as an education. And you needn't just take it from me. So, for example, the independent research confirms that actually standards in New Zealand are slipping. In 2014, our own Tertiary Education Commission did a huge study of 800 Year 12 students with NCEA Level 2, and they found that amongst that group, 40% of them were functionally illiterate, and 42% of them were functionally innumerate. That's crazy that 4 out of 10 Year 12 students who've been given the stamp of approval by NCEA are actually unable to read, write and do basic maths.
Isn't it actually a good thing that we've got more people passing NCEA and we've got a more holistic group of students who are actually coming out of school? It's not all about maths and English.
So I think it's an illusion, and we're kidding ourselves if we think that students are succeeding in school if they're leaving school functionally illiterate and innumerate. And ultimately, it's a question of expectations. And my concern is that low expectations have been baked into our national assessment. There's been talk recently about unconscious teacher bias in New Zealand, and my concern is actually, never mind blaming teachers, perhaps the unconscious bias lies in our national assessment system. We have to believe that almost all students can be functionally literate and numerate. And I've taught in schools in the UK where that is the case. Teachers and students make huge sacrifices to achieve that, because for some students it's really hard work.
Do you think that
really is
some kids are being directed towards easier subjects just because of a bias, an unconscious bias?
Yeah, so that is what teachers and students report, and sadly, some students will get to the end of NCEA. They'll have gone through with flying colours, levels 1, 2, and 3, and then they find that actually they didn't do the right subjects that will enable them to go to university and to gain university entrance.
You don't want us to see we don't want us to go back to the traditional system, though, was it? I mean, that's a 200-year-old system where we basically learn times tables. We don't want to see that.
Absolutely not, and there are huge advantages to NCEA. Principal among them, its flexibility, and the recommendations, the 7 really practical recommendations in the report, effectively trade a small amount of NCEA's flexibility for improvements in the other areas. So standards would increase, teachers' workloads, importantly, would be reduced dramatically, and we'd see the less wide gap between children who are self-motivated and come from the right families and those who struggle or don't have parents who can advise them.
Well, it actually sounds really good, Briar Lipson. Thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thanks, Hayley.
20 to 7 on Breakfast.